Hi everybody and welcome back to Lesson 10 of the Dead Earth Game Development Series, brought to you by the Game Institute. I'm Gary Simmons, and over the past few lessons we've been examining Unity's navigation subsystem, and I think we understand it pretty well at this point. We've seen how we can generate a navigation mesh that describes all the navigatable areas in our level, and we also saw how by adding a nav agent component to a game object, via our own scripts we can talk to that nav agent component, and we can have our game object navigating the world without walking through any walls or doors. And by using Unity's navigation system in the way that we have so far, we've also seen how the nav agent component is entirely in control of the steering and speed of the object. The nav agent component is what ultimately updates the position of the transform of the game object it's attached to. So now it's time for things to get a lot more interesting. We're going to go out and find some nice free character models that we can use, and I'll also show you some ones that you can purchase which are also very good. And we're also going to go and find some nice free zombie animations that we can import and use in our game. You might be surprised to know that many of the zombie models and animations that are used in Dead Earth you can currently get completely free of charge. Once we have some cool looking zombie models imported into our project and have imported a nice library of animation clips to animate those models, we will spend quite some time investigating Unity's very powerful animation subsystem called Mechanim. You see, given a character in a game, we will usually need to use many different animation clips to represent its overall behavior. A zombie in our game, for example, will need to have a walking animation, a running animation, a handful of attack animations, perhaps multiple dying animations, seeking and feeding animations, to name just a few. How do we keep track of which animation clip each zombie should be using at any given time, given the current situation, and control how to smoothly transition, in other words blend, from one animation to the next? Fortunately, one of the most powerful features of Mechanim is its animator controller asset. This animator controller allows us to visually define an animation state machine for all of our animation clips. We construct a graph of animation clips and define the transitions between them. A single transition between two animation clips describes how the blend between those two animations is going to happen and under what conditions it is allowed to happen. The animation controller can also be fed parameters from our own scripts that influence the transitions from one state to the next. This is going to be an exciting system for us to learn, and actually we will spend many lessons dedicated to just that. After all, when you're making a zombie survival game, having your zombies navigate and animate correctly is a massive part of that game. We will also be using an animation state machine as the heart of the first-person arm system that we will build also, so this is so vital to our game. Now, before we go off hunting for animations and models, let me just say that in today's modern titles we generally try to find and use locomotion animations, that's animations such as walking, running and jumping, etc., that have what's called root motion encoded in them. To understand what this is, let's examine how characters used to be animated before root motion use was commonplace. In the game engines of yesteryear, you would typically use what's called in-place animations instead of root motion animations. If you played an in-place walking animation clip on a character model, the model would play the animation, but its position would not be updated unless we manually updated the position ourselves via our own code. Playing the animation and doing nothing else would see the character simply walking on the spot. Via code, we would then update the position of the character by roughly approximating the correct speed based on nothing more than visual testing. Essentially, the character was still animating on the spot, but we were simultaneously sliding it forward like a chess piece to give the illusion that the animation was actually propelling it forward. This works okay for very simple and constant animations such as walking, but falls way short of the mark when using less constant animations that fluctuate in speed greatly throughout their timelines. Imagine the animation of a zombie walking with a limp. The character might first lunge forward on the right foot, then stop and steady itself for a bit, then, after a short pause, drag the left foot up to be equal with the right foot before stopping again, wobbling for a bit more before it steadies itself, before finally lunging back out again on the left foot. Applying a constant movement speed to such a fluctuating animation leads to problems that can be seen in many older games, and it's often referred to as sliding or skating. It's clear in such situations that the animation and the movement are completely decoupled from one another, and as motion capture, or mocap for short, began to be used more and more to generate animation data for computer games, that's basically the generation of animation data by recording real human motions, these problems began to show more and more. Even simply slowing the character from a walk to a stop can look awful with in-place animations if you simply try to slow the walking clip down to match. The sad fact is that when the animation was being created in a 3D modeling package such as 3D Studio or Maya, it was often generated by truly moving the object. As the feet moved from one position to the next, the root transform of the skeletal hierarchy, usually the pelvis bone, would move through the world along with the rest of the model. The speed and direction at which this root bone moved was all the information that we needed to know to understand the velocity of the character at any point along the animation's timeline. But because no engines were using it, this root motion information was simply discarded on export, or even if included, ignored by the engine at playback time. Fortunately, root motion animations are now the de facto standard, and Unity's animation system knows how to read that data and apply it to the transform of the object being animated. Simply put, at each frame of the animation itself tells Unity how fast and in which direction to update the transform of the game object. That's right, the animation itself drives the position and rotation of the object's transform. This all happens pretty automatically when using Unity's animation system, and increases the animation quality 100-fold in my opinion. However, for the alert among you, you may have already sensed a potential conflict here if using animating characters that are also driven by Unity's navigation system. The NavMesh agent component also currently updates the transform of the game object. We have a situation where the animation will be telling Unity to update the position and rotation of the game object based on the root motion data, but the NavMesh agent component will be trying to update the position and the rotation of the object based on completely different criteria. They are both fighting to update the transform of the game object with completely different datasets. Therefore, once we start building our AI state machine, we will examine how we can get the two to play nicely together. Now, the approach that I use in Dead Earth is just one of many that can be used. In Dead Earth, the NavMesh agent still ultimately drives the character's transform, but is fed its velocity data from the root motion in the currently playing animation, so we don't get any sliding. So to give an example, we ask the NavMesh agent component how fast it would like to be going. And let's say it tells us 4 kilometers per hour. We then feed that speed into the animation controller as a parameter. The animation controller can then use that speed parameter to select the closest matching animation. Now, this may not be exactly what we want, however, so we may find the closest animation that the animation controller could find has a root motion speed of 2 kilometers per hour, only half the desired speed of the NavMesh agent component. Now, if we simply ignored this root motion speed and allowed the NavMesh agent to update the transform at its faster speed, we would see sliding. However, we configure the animation controller not to update the transform, but instead send that data to us. We can then override the speed of the NavMesh agent so that it obeys the speed dictated by the current animation being played. Now, this probably all sounds a bit complicated, and don't worry, we're going to see how all of this is done over the coming videos. But before we go hunting for animations, I wanted to make you aware of the challenges that lie ahead, and the fact that we really want to be looking for root motion for all of our locomotion animations. So let's begin our hunt for free zombie models and animations by visiting a website called www.mixamo.com. This is where I got the lion's share of zombie models and animations that are used by Dead Earth, and what's more, they're currently completely free. Now, Mixamo have been a major player on the Unity scene since I first got involved with Unity myself, way back when Unity was in version 3.0. Traditionally, they were just a large animation shop. They had a massive library of animations that Unity developers could purchase from their website, and these animations were tailor-made to import into Unity and use without any hassle. In recent years though, their focus changed, away from being an animation shop and more on creating tools and services for modelers. Some of these tools and services are still in their preview phase, but you can still use them, and so impressive are they that Adobe recently purchased Mixamo, so I can only assume they saw a lot of promise in what Mixamo were working on, and I would expect now with Adobe behind them to see the development on these tools and services ramp up exponentially. So let's have a look at what they're currently working on before we go and have a look at their animation library. First, I would like to draw your attention to Fuse, which is a package that is designed for people without a modeling background to be able to create their own characters in much the same way that you and I might configure an avatar in an RPG game like Skyrim. A character can be made by simply manipulating sliders. Clothing can be chosen from a huge library of clothing and the materials of that clothing changed. And it shows an awful lot of promise. I can certainly see a time when I'll be able to use a tool like Fuse to create all of the models for my game without having to rely on assets that I purchased or on a modeler to make them for me. One of the really cool services though that Mixamo offers is the Auto Rigger service, which if you've got an Adobe ID you also have access to. You see, even if I could manage to make a 3D model of a character, one of the really painful tasks is rigging it. Now for those of you that don't know, rigging a mesh is the process of putting a bone hierarchy inside of it and painting weights into the vertices so that when the bones move, the right vertices are moved by those bones. It's a pretty painful task, but using the Auto Rigger, you simply upload your unrigged model to the Mixamo website and then just highlight some of the key features using their interface, such as the elbow joints, the knee joints, the pelvis, and then you can see that auto-rigged by them and animating using any of their animations, literally just a touch of a couple of buttons. So this is a very cool service indeed, because quite often you'll find models on either the asset store or on other asset websites such as TurboSquid, for example. Might be a really cool model, but it might not be rigged and ready to animate. You can just upload it into the Auto Rigger of Mixamo and have them do it all for you using their automated service. Another thing that they have which is really cool is their Decimator service. This allows you to choose a character model that may be really high poly, upload it to their service, and then just type in the percentage of reduction that you would like. This saves you the painstaking task of having to create various LOD levels for character models that are way off in the distance. Just upload your model to Decimator, choose the percentage reduction you want, and wait for it to give you a link to the download of the newly optimized and low poly version. They also have Face Plus, another tool that is tailor-made for doing facial animations with just a webcam. Now I don't know much about this, I haven't really done a lot with facial animation myself in any of my projects, but it definitely looks very promising, and all of this stuff has been made specifically with Unity developers in mind. Now, even if you're not going to use any of these tools, and I don't think we are in Dead Earth, what's really cool about this is because their focus has changed away from their animation library and the selling of character models, any of the character models they had and the animation library that they had are now being given away completely free of charge. All you have to do is create your Adobe account, then you can log in and download any of their animations that you want. And they have lots of zombie animations. And like I said, Mixamo also have a small library of characters, and it just so happens from our point of view that many of those characters are zombie characters. So I don't know how long this free animation and character download is going to last. So if you're watching this video, make sure you visit Mixamo straight away and literally just grab all the animations and all the character models you can, because they may start charging for these again in the future when their tools and their new website comes out of the beta phase. So going back to the homepage again, I'm going to take some time in this lesson to show you around the Mixamo website and also show you the character models that I downloaded and the animations that I downloaded. I think it's worth spending that time introducing you to Mixamo and showing you these things, because Mixamo has been such an important resource for me whilst developing Dead Earth, and I'm sure it will be to you too. Now don't get me wrong, I've also had to get animations from other places and models from other places, but the lion's share did come from Mixamo, and if you're following along with me, this is going to give you more than you need to follow along with the lessons. So If you haven't already got an Adobe ID, then you need to click sign up and sign up for one. It's really easy. You just supply them with your name, address, password, and your date of birth. Click sign up, and that's it. You're in and you're ready to start grabbing stuff. I've already got an account, however, so I'm going to click login. I'm going to type in my password, click sign in, and I'm in and I'm ready to go. Now this is an account that I created specifically for this lesson, so I don't have any animations or characters added to my account. So this should be exactly what you see when you create your account as well. So what we're going to do first of all is we're going to go up and click on the link that says store. This will take us to the home page of their store, which shows all of their featured products. Most of these are animation packs that they've compiled for you with all their animations grouped based on theme. There's even a scary zombie pack here, which includes a load of zombie animations, but not all of them. So instead of using one of their packs, what we'll do is we'll pick out our animations from their library and we'll build our own pack that we can download. First thing I'm going to do though is I'm going to go to the characters section of their store. So go up to this little navigation bar in the top left corner of the store and click characters. Now Mixamo don't have a load of characters. They used to have a lot more than this. And in fact, before I made this lesson, I came here a couple of weeks ago and all of these models were gone. And they decided to take them all down, and the reason they gave was just that because they're concentrating on Fuse and Face Plus and Decimator and Auto Rigger, that this was no longer the business they wanted to be in, so they just took them all off their website. Fortunately, many people in the Mixamo community played merry hell and demanded that the models come back, and thankfully Mixamo obliged, and they've put some of them up now. This isn't all of the ones they used to have, so hopefully we'll see even some more of those come up over the coming weeks. But fortunately for us, the ones that they did upload contains pretty much all of the zombies that I need to use. I should also say that whilst you can download zombie models, and I suggest you download, in fact, to be honest, I would suggest you download all of the models, because you never know when you're going to need some of these. Like some of these fantasy models will be great for the Rising, so I'm going to grab them all. But even if you're just making a zombie game and you see something like, you know, just a standard character model, download it anyway, because it's quite easy to make a regular character look like a zombie character by just doing some manipulation of the base texture and the normal map. And in fact, Darren, my brother, who put all the levels together for Dead Earth, that's also one of the other things that he's done, and he may even make a video showing you how he did that. But we just basically grabbed any model we could, and if we thought it would make a good zombie but it wasn't already a zombie, we would go in and we would mess around with the textures, download some blood and some scar textures off of Google Images, and then just sort of put them on the face and tweak with the colors of the skin and that sort of stuff. So here are the characters that are currently available at the time I recorded this video. So the first one that I use in Dead Earth is this American cop character that's been made into a zombie, and they've called him Derek. So just click on it once, and what you'll see on Mixamo's site is a preview window come up, which will show you it in detail, and you'll be able to scroll around and have a good look at it. What's more is you can also pick out any animation from their animation library and see what that model looks like using that animation. This is a really cool feature. So for example, there's an animation here called guitar playing. If I click on that, it's going to automatically start making my zombie cop play guitar. And this also gives us a sneak peek into how their animation system works. You see, it's not just a case of clicking on an animation and downloading it. You can see here that you have the ability to change the characteristics of the animation before you download it. So let's just say, for example, you were making a 3D scene of a band and you had a couple of guitar players. You wouldn't want all of the guitar players using exactly the same pose. So what you could do is you could download this from one of them exactly as it is with the default settings. But then you could come back at another time and you could say, well, now I'm going to lower the guitar position. And after a slight pause, you can see now he's holding the guitar lower down. And then you've got the stance itself. There you can see he's more of a kind of squatting guitar player, or if you move it to the far right, he's much more kind of upright. And then you also have the playing style. So I'm just showing you these settings are done on a per animation basis, but it's really good because you can procedurally generate the animation customized to exactly how you want it. we're not really looking at the animations yet, but I just wanted to show you that for any animations you find, you can tweak all the settings and stuff before you download them. But because we're not at the animation stage yet, we're just choosing characters, I'm going to go back to the characters tab in the navigation bar and once again click on Derek, and then we are back to just viewing the model. And I'm going to just take you through some of the ones that I downloaded and used in Dead Earth. So I used Derek. The next one I believe I might have downloaded is this one here called Survivor A Lost. Weird name. So we might have some use for him. He looks pretty cool. And when you see any character that you want, all you have to do is do add to my assets, like so. And then you'll be able to ever come back at any point and download that, or if you go to my assets, you'll be able to see all the assets that you've added. But I'll do that in a minute. I just want to carry on showing you the ones that I downloaded and the ones that I may use in Dead Earth, either as just general zombie citizens or as sort of end of level bosses. This one's pretty cool. Parasite L. Starkey, let's add that one to my assets as well. Don't be put off by the fact that they may look kind of low quality. It's mainly just down to the material that the preview is using. So these are going to look a lot better when we get them into Unity and use Unity Standard Shader. Another one that I downloaded was this one called Prisoner B. In fact, I did see a level on the asset store that was the inside of a prison, so that could be pretty cool for that. And this one here as well called a Yaku J Ignite. As you can see, he's actually got a samurai sword right through his sternum. And this one here as well, which is just called Zombie. In fact, you may have seen that one on some of the introductions to my videos, and it looks a lot better than that obviously when it's actually in the game. Now the one that I'm going to be using, let me remember to add that to my assets. Actually, I don't think I added Yaku J Ignite to my assets either. Now the one that I'm going to be using for our sort of AI tests is going to be Jill, which is this one here. And I'm going to be using this one for when we start creating the AI state machine code and for testing the Mechanim state machine that we're going to build as well. So this is going to be an important asset, so make sure you definitely add this one. This is another one that you will have no doubt seen in the Dead Earth promo video. He's like a manic butcher or something called Mortimer. And as you can see, he is featured quite heavily in the Dead Earth promo video. You see him taking a few shots to the head. So let me add that to my assets. This is another one that I use, the Girl Scout. Once again, in the Dead Earth promo video, you'll see a nice shot of the Girl Scout sort of crawling her way through the sewers. I actually used a monkey animation on the Girl Scout. That's how I got her sort of crawling on all fours through the water. So I'm going to add that one to my assets. There's also one here which I haven't used yet, but I may do just because it's so cool, called White Clown. So I'm going to add that to my assets. I don't know whether any of you remember a series called Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but there was this really good episode. I think it was called Hush, or it might have been called The Gentleman, but this reminds me very much of that, and they were creepy as hell. And this one as well is one that I use. It's like a sort of British policeman, and this is another one that features quite prominently in the Dead Earth promo video, so I'll add that to my assets. I haven't used this one. It's called War Zombie, but I really like him. But I'm trying to figure how I can sort of work him into the game at the moment, because he's wearing like some old-fashioned military outfit. But I think with the right shader that would look really cool. So maybe we'll have some sort of scene where this guy is supposed to be a zombie that's just come out of a fancy dress shop or something. It's a cool figure nonetheless. And I think the final one that I used from here, at least that were already zombified, was this zombie girl. Yep, she's pretty cool, so I'll add her to my assets, and I think that'll be it for now. So all I've done at the moment is added a load of characters to my assets. Now, I haven't mentioned this, but with the preview window, you just left-click the mouse and drag to sort of change the rotation around, and the mouse wheel zooms in and out. And there's also controls down here, so you can kind of pan around and that as well. So now I've added all of those zombies to sort of my assets. You'll notice that up where it says Store, you've also got a link to the section called My Assets. And if I go there, it shows me all of the characters that I've added to my assets. And what I can actually do is just select them all by clicking the box. And then I can click on Queue Download. And then what it will ask me is for the download settings, because you can download the files in various different formats. You want to leave pose on T-pose, because that's the best pose for Unity's animation system to work with. And you can download like BioVision files, Collada files, FBX, and there's another option called FBX for Unity. Now I'm going to be honest, I don't know what that means, but I chose FBX for Unity. I don't know how it differs from regular FBX, because Unity also works fine with regular FBX files. But it stands to reason that if we want an FBX file, which we do, and we're using Unity, then it's certainly got to be the best thing to choose, right? So I've chosen FBX for Unity. Now I'm going to queue download. And you'll see now that what it's doing is processing that request, and then they're slowly updating, and as each one becomes available, you'll get the download link. So what I'm going to do now, before I download these, is I'm going to go back to my desktop and I'm going to create a folder called Mixamo, just so I know, when I download stuff from various different resources, where it comes from. And then it's just a case of clicking on each of these downloads and downloading them. Now my Chrome settings are such that they're not going to download straight into the Mixamo folder. You can see down the bottom here that they're all starting to download. So I'm going to click on all of these to get them downloading, and what I'll do is I'll pause the video while I'm doing that, because my internet connection absolutely sucks ass. So one of the downsides of living in the country. So these are basically all downloading into my Chrome downloads folder. So once they've downloaded, I'm going to drag them all out into the Mixamo folder, and that will be that part of the process done, and we'll have a nice set of characters to work with. So they've all finished downloading now, so they should all be in my downloads folder. I'm using Chrome here, by the way. So if I click on show all downloads in the bottom right corner of the browser, I can see them all there. I'll minimize the window, and then I'll just start dragging them into my Mixamo folder like so. In fact, I think what I'll probably do is I will probably create a subfolder in the Mixamo folder called characters, and then when I download the animations, I can store those in the animations folder. Okay, I think that's all of them. Did I get them all? Oh, well, there's certainly enough for now. It looks like I downloaded 2 copies of Zombie Cop, so I'll get rid of the second one. And then what I'll do is I'll right click in my Mixamo folder, and I'll choose to create a new folder, and I'll call that characters, and I'll drag all of those in there. And I'll create another folder called animations, and that's where I'm going to download all of the animations from Mixamo, but we haven't got to that bit yet. We'll do that next. So we've seen how to download the characters. So if we go back to my assets, you can see that if we choose my characters, we see all the characters that we've added to our assets. But if I choose my animations, you can see I haven't got any at the moment. So let's go shopping for animation, folks. So I'm going to click on the store again, and I'm going to choose animations this time from the navigation bar. Now there's loads and loads of animations. I mean, there's pages and pages of them. So a good start is to go to the search bar after you've selected animations and type in zombie. There you go, and that whittles them down to, I think, really most of the animations that I used for Mixamo in Dead Earth. I got some other animations from some other places, and I'll show you those as well, either in this video or the next, so that you can really build up a nice animation library, and our zombies can have plenty of variation, because the last thing we want is all of the zombies in like our city scene all using the same walk animation, because that looks like rubbish. So here is a list of all the animations that fit our search criteria of zombie. And although the animated thumbnails give you a general sense for what the animation is, of course you need to examine that animation more closely and see it playing on a 3D model. And we can do that by simply clicking on one of the animations, and that will open up Mixamo's 3D preview window, and then you'll see that animation automatically playing out on the last character that you were previewing, which in my case is Zombie Jill. But if you want to see this animation play out on another one of your characters that you've added to your collection, then just go up to this little change character link in the top right corner of the preview area. Click change character, and that's going to bring up the select character dialog. Now by default my characters will be chosen, which shows all of the characters that I've already added to my collection. So if I wanted to see what it looked like playing out on Mortimer, the Manic Butcher, I could just click Mortimer, and there you go. the animation plays out on that. If you want to see the animation play out on a character you haven't added to your collection, then when you choose select character, select Mixamo characters instead of my characters, and then you'll have access to the complete Mixamo character library, like so. That's a pretty cool character, but not for this game. So I'm going to put it back to my zombie Jill for now. There you go. Now once you've got the animation how you want it, because remember each of these animations expose custom controls that allow you to configure some of the characteristics of the animation, you could just choose to simply add that animation to your collection. And you do that by just clicking this Add to My Assets button up here. So if I were to do that and click Add to My Assets and then go to My Assets area and then go to the My Animations tab, you can now see that there is this zombie death animation waiting for me to download it, and I can just select it, click Q download, and just like we did with the characters, we'll see some download links appear. However, I'm not going to do it that way, so I'm going to select it and then delete it from my collection. Then I'm going to go back to the store, back to animations, type zombie again to get us back where we were. And I'm going to draw your attention to the fact that some of these animations have little numbers overlaid on them. There's one here that has a 12 overlaid on it, and one here that has 24 overlaid on it. Now these numbers actually signify that this is a pack containing the number of animations that is shown in that overlay. So in this particular case, there's the Not So Scary pack, which contains 24 animations, and the Scary Zombie pack, which contains 12 animations. So if I click on that one, when it opens up the 3D preview window, it will start playing through all of the animations, and you can simply add this pack to your collection by just clicking the Add to My Assets button. Or what you can also do is customize the pack if you want to. And that's one of the really cool things about Mixamo, is that it allows you to build your own packs, because if you simply go through and find each animation that you want and add it to your collection, then it's a little bit of a pain when it comes to downloading all of your animations, because each animation is a separate item in your collection that needs to be downloaded and have its own download link generated for it. However, what we can do is we can just collect loads of animations together and store them in a custom pack with whatever name we choose to give it, and then that will show up in our collection as a sort of single asset to download, a single pack of animations. Now in this particular case, the Scary Zombie pack, Mixamo have gone through the trouble of collecting some animations together, 12 in this case, and already putting them in a pack for us. And we can choose to customize that pack if we want. So let's see what happens if I choose Customize Pack. Now you can see that down the bottom here, all of the animations that are in that pack have been displayed, and we can select each one individually and see what it looks like. Another thing you might want to be aware of is if I find the running animation, there it is, you'll see that the zombie kind of runs off the screen, and that's because these animations have root motion in them. This is exactly what we want. And you'll notice how if I choose Zombie Walk, you have a classic example here of what I was talking about earlier on. Imagine this animation being played out as an in-place animation and trying to come up with some constant speed that would move this character without making it look like it was sliding along the floor. Now you can choose if you want to get rid of the root motion by clicking in place on any animation, and then you'll see what I was talking about in the early days when animations were given to us like this, where the walking animation is still intact but no root motion is encoded. The character is just walking in place. Then it's up to the coder to sort of slide that zombie along at the correct speed that matches the animation. But we don't want to do that. We definitely want to have root motion where it's available. And you can see it automatically detects, when the player lunges forward and then stops and steadies himself. And another thing I can show you is that if you're, and I'll choose the run animation for this, to stop the zombie running off the screen, what you can do is you can go down to this little toolbar and you can click the little camera icon, which kind of glues the camera to the character. So now you can see the root motion still there. We can see by the grid lines on the floor that root motion is being used, but we kind of have a boom camera now where the camera is following the character, and that makes it much easier to preview the animation. Now, what I could do is I could say, this is the pack I'm going to use, and then what I'm going to do is add more animations to it. But I'm not going to do that, I don't think. I'm going to create my own animation pack from scratch, because this only has 12 animations in it. The other pack has 24 animations, and there's more animations than that here. So I'm going to build a pack that has all of these animations in. And furthermore, you're going to see in a minute that by doing tests for other animations, well, in fact, I'll do it now. If you type in, for example, mutant, this brings up a whole load of animations for sort of monsters and mutants. And some of these also work pretty well on zombies too, like this mutant run, for example. You know, that's not too bad. That could be used as an alternative run for a zombie. There's also an alternative right and left turn here, which works quite well for a zombie as well. And there's also one here of a zombie sort of swiping, using that mutant swiping animation. So I want to build a pack that has all of the zombie animations we saw before and some of these as well. So what I'm going to do is I am going to type in zombie again to get back that original list of animations. And then what I'm going to do, I think, is I'm going to create a brand new pack. Let me close that pack that we currently had open, which was the built-in pack. And I'm just going to start at the very top left corner here with Zombie Walk, and then I'm going to choose Add to Pack. Now this little text box comes up which allows me to type in the name that I would like to give this pack in my collection. So I'm going to call this, no I'm not, I was going to call it Gary's Zombie Pack, but then I realized that was a bit narcissistic, put my name on everything. So I'm going to call this the Mixamo Zombie Pack. And that's all that's needed. And you can see that that has already been added to the pack. So we have the zombie walk animation in it. So then I can just choose the zombie punching animation, and then I can click add that to pack. And now you can see that's in the pack as well. Then there's this zombie transition. Don't think I'm going to need that. There is this zombie crawl though. I'm going to need that one. I love that one. And if you've seen the Dead Earth promo video, you know this crawling animation is also used. Now, for reasons I don't really want to get into at the moment, although there are some really cool animated death sequences, we are not going to use any of them. Because in Dead Earth, when you kill a zombie, ragdoll physics takes over and controls the collapse of that zombie onto the floor, so we don't need any death animations. There's also a zombie transition here. I don't think I generally need transitions, as we're just going to be using the animation state machine. There's a zombie idle, which is pretty understated, but I like it, so we're going to add that to the pack. There's another zombie idle here, which is a bit different, so I'm going to add that to the pack. There's also a zombie sort of feeding, they called it zombie biting here. Pretty cool. So I'm going to add that to the pack. And then there's a zombie run. That's definitely one that we're going to want. There's a zombie scream, which I'm currently not using in Dead Earth, but I probably will. I really like the idea of having sort of some zombie that when it sees you does this screaming animation and sort of lets off a loud shrieking noise, which makes all the other zombies in the area aware of your existence as well. So I'm going to add that for the future. There's another zombie walking here. Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm going to add that one. We want to have as much running and walking variation as possible. And remember, we also have the ability on a per animation basis to come back and download variations of those animations with some of their sliders and settings tweaked in the animation control panel over here. So did I add that one? Yes. There's another zombie idle. Can never have too many idols. I don't like that one. I don't intend to have any of my zombies kicking. But you know what? I'm going to add it anyway, because who knows? I might change my mind. Now, the only reason I'm showing you me going through this painstaking process, I'm trying to give you an idea for some of the animations I don't need. Like, once again, we don't want to use this animation here because we're going to handle all falling and stumbling using ragdoll physics, and that way all of the body parts of the mesh are going to have colliders on them, which will stop them falling through walls and stuff. That's one of the problems when you play an animation like this. The animation controller takes over and it will just animate your zombie right through a wall or a door. So I don't need kicking, I don't need stumbling. I definitely want the zombie attack. Add that one. I don't want zombie dying for the reasons I just mentioned. There's another attack here called zombie punching. I'm going to add it anyway, although I'll be honest, I don't like it. It's too human. I do like this one though. There's one here called zombie headbutt. Bosh. Have some of that. So I'm going to add that one. Zombie turn. Yes, I like that one. Zombie agonizing. Obviously a zombie in pain here. Nope, that's not the sort of zombie I'm going for. There's another zombie attack, like a two-handed hammer down. I'm going to go for that one. Another zombie idol. And there's one here called zombie biting. Now you remember we had another one called zombie biting up above. Where is it? There it is. And that one included the fall from an upright position down into a feeding position, and then the feeding position back up into an upright position. So what we also need is we need an animation with just the zombie feeding, so that we can keep the zombie feeding for as long as we want. Now in Dead Earth, each of my zombies has a hunger property, and as they walk around the level they become more desperate for food, and then once their hunger drops below a certain threshold, if they see a dead body lying on the ground, they'll go over and feast on it, and they'll feast on it either until they're disturbed or until their hunger is replenished. So we wish the ability to keep them down there as long as that happens. So that's why I'm going to add this second zombie biting animation, which is just a looping animation of the zombie in the biting position. And then what we'll do in our state machine is once the zombie has reached the dead body on the floor, it will first of all play the upright into the feeding position. Then this looping animation here will take over until the zombie's appetite has been satisfied, and then we'll play the back up into an upright position, and then the zombie will then, you know, resume its day, I suppose, for lack of a better word. There's another one here called zombie neck bite. I think we should have that one. In fact, this is pretty pivotal. This is how the player in Dead Earth actually gets infected. If a zombie gets close enough to you and does this maneuver on you, they actually bite you. And you'll see it's quite interesting. What we basically have is a big collider on the mouth and a collider around the player. So when this zombie sort of goes into your neck, we have this kind of capsule collider sticking out from his mouth, which then intersects the collider on our character, and that's how we know we're being bitten from a code perspective. So, yep, that one's been added. And we also want some reactions. In other words, what happens when the zombie gets hit. Because we don't want them to ragdoll all the time, especially if it's just a minor hit, like a shot in the shoulder. I've never been shot in the shoulder. I'm sure for anyone that has, you know, you wouldn't refer to it as a minor hit, but you know what I mean. So I'm going to add that one as well. And there's another walking animation here, so I'm going to add that. And we're nearly done with the zombies. There's another zombie reaction which looks like, yeah, we want as many of those as we can. Now, what I could do within Mixamo is I could mirror some of these so that I have left and right versions, but I'm not going to do that because you're going to see either in the next lesson or the lesson after that when we import our animations into Unity, we can actually do that within Unity itself. We can take any animation, make a copy of it, and then mirror it. So it doesn't matter if all of our hits have the zombie kind of reacting and being pushed to the left, because we'll just make a copy of those, push them to the right, and at runtime we'll play the right animation based on what part of the body the zombie gets hit. And I think that's all the ones we need from here. Let me just check I've got both those zombie reactions. I don't think we need the thriller dance, do we? But I think we should see it anyway. Oh dear, I wish I could work that in. Okay, so as you can see now, we have quite a lot of animations in our pack, but we haven't added it to our collection yet, and that's because I'm not done. The last thing I'm going to do on the Mixamo website before downloading this pack is I'm going to type in mutant in the search bar, and we're going to see which ones of those mutant animations would also be a welcome addition to our pack. So we've got jumping. I don't think I'm going to use that. Don't like that walk. Doesn't look like a zombie walk. We don't want dying, but we did see that mutant swiping earlier, and I really like that, so I'm going to add that to my pack as well. There's also a mutant punch. I don't like the clenched fist. It doesn't seem something a zombie would do. I might use that one. I don't think I will, but I'll add it anyway. And then we've got some alternative turns as well. So I'm going to add, actually that's not the one I wanted. There was another one down here, down the bottom. So I'll ignore that one for now. There's also another idle. Don't think this is one we want. Actually, I quite like that. I mean, our zombies don't actually spend much time in idle anyway. If they're not currently chasing you or searching for prey or investigating sounds, they're generally patrolling. But I'll add that anyway because it's a pretty cool one. Let's have a look at this run. There's a second run here. Yep, I'm going to add that one to the pack. There's one here called Mutant Jump. Nope, don't want that one. And there's one here which I guess is like a kind of idle with just the character breathing. So I think I'll add that one. The only other ones we want to use are these mutant right turn and mutant left turn. So I think they look pretty cool. Actually, that isn't the one I wanted. It must have been this one. Nope, not that one either. This one. Ah, there's the one. The one where he actually does turn. I don't know, was that other one an in-place animation? Maybe it was. Yeah, so I like that one. So I don't think there's a left turn alternative for that. So what I'll do is I'll add that to my collection, and then when we get it into Unity, we'll flip it and we'll make a left turning version of that as well. So I think that's my pack pretty much created now. And I'm sure if I scour Mixamo's animation library and perform different searches, I'll find a load of other animations which would be really cool. However, that's what I'm going to use off Mixamo for now. So a very important point here is that I have to go over to where I named my pack and make sure that I click save, like so. Now I believe if I go to my assets area now and click on my animations, there is the Mixamo zombie pack that I created, and therefore to download it I just click it like so, and I click the Q download button, and much like it did before, it's going to ask me what pose I want it in. T-pose is what I want my hierarchy to be in. I want FBX for Unity. I'm not going to choose to do any keyframe reduction. That's basically a compression technique which tries to eliminate keyframes from the timeline that are either duplicates or very, very sort of fractionally different from keyframes that are bounding it. But Unity is going to do keyframe reduction on import if we need it to anyway, so I'm not going to do that here. And the frames per second of these animations, I think we just want to leave that at a default, 30 frames per second. That's fine. And I'm going to click Q download, and then there'll be a little bit of a pause while Mixamo processes my request. And don't worry about all of these other download links. Those are the characters that I downloaded. It's just keeping a memory of that so I can always come back and download them again. The only entry in this download list that we haven't grabbed is the Mixamo Zombie Pack. I don't know why it's called Mixamo Zombie Pack Jill. I guess that might be the model that they bundle with it. And you can see it's processing, so I'm going to pause the video until the processing is complete, and then that should be replaced by a download button. Aha, there it is. That took about a minute or so. So I'm going to click download. Then it should start downloading it into my Chrome downloads area. It's about 18.9 megabyte, so it's going to be about 20 seconds or so because I've got a really sucky internet connection. So I'll probably pause the video now until that's downloaded. Okay, and she is down, Jill.zip. So if I show my downloads, there it is. And I'll minimize Chrome. I will open up that Mixamo folder that I created at the beginning of the lesson, but this time I will open up my animations folder and I will drag Jill.zip into there. And if we open up, we can see all of the animations. And you can see the Jill character with it as well. But that's no problem. We can just choose not to use that. So what I'm going to do is select all of the animations, and then I'm going to drag them out of the zip file so they're ready to be imported into Unity. So in fact, let's go back to Unity and do that now. So I'm going to go to the project view. I'm going to drill down into my Dead Earth folder, and I'm just looking at what folders I've created so far. I think I'm going to create a subfolder in there, and I think I'm going to call it models, like so. And then I'm going to drill down into that, and I'm going to create a folder called Mixamo Characters. Then I'll open that up, minimize Unity, open up the Mixamo folder, and I'm going to drag all of those characters that we downloaded by multi-selecting them all and dragging and dropping them into the project view. And then this will take a little while Unity imports them and all of their textures and things like that. So I'm going to pause the video while that's happening. And they're in. Now you'll notice that Unity has brought up this little warning box which is saying that many of the normal maps that have been imported from these characters haven't been set as a texture type of normal map, and Unity is offering to fix that for us now. It's no big deal, just choose Fix Now, and it will just make sure that all of the normal maps are re-imported as normal maps instead of being interpreted as being textures of just a very weird color. So there we are, we've now imported all of our models, and if you look in the Mixamo characters folders, we can see that each model has this little blue cube icon next to it, and if we select each one, we get to see a preview of it in the preview window. You just need to make sure that as you select one of these models in the model importer, you'll see there's 3 buttons along the top: model, rig and animations. You want this to be set on model to see what the model looks like. And don't be too disheartened if some of these look a little bit rubbish when you first import them. That's just because when Unity imported them, it created materials with kind of default values, and it will have got some of them wrong, and some of the normal maps won't be as strong as they should be, and we can make them look a heck of a lot better. And some of them, like this one here, for example, the Girl Scout, we can see that this is actually transparent, which it shouldn't be. And if you want to fix these, you can simply let's drag the Girl Scout into the scene, see what she looks like, and then we can diagnose the problem with her. So yeah, she looks like she's suffering from severe radiation at the moment. Her eyeballs are on the outside. So I've dragged one into the scene, so I've got the Girl Scout in hierarchy now. And if I go down to the Girl Scout model, in other words, I'm looking for the skinned mesh renderer, we can see what material it uses, and it uses the Girl Scout diffuse material. So I'm going to select that, and then that will select that in the materials folder of our Mixamo characters folder. So just so you're keeping up, when we drag in these models into Unity, we can see each of the models, and we can also see that as part of the package for each model, each one had its own folder created which has all of its textures and stuff like that in. But there is a folder that's created by Unity called Materials, which is always created in the same folder that the models were dragged into. And it's actually in this folder that all of the materials that were created by Unity for each model on import will be stored. And there you can see Police Zombie, Mortimer, and our Girl Scout material. Now straight away when we look at that in the inspector, we can see that this has been set to a rendering mode of transparent. Well, it shouldn't be, it should be opaque. And all of a sudden the girl is starting to look a lot more like the thing that was advertised. So let's move her around a little bit so we can see her a little bit better. Not much light in this scene, which isn't really helping. So I will undo lighting in the scene view. I will select the Girl Scout material again, and then we can start to really sort of play around with the settings of the standard shader. I can't remember what they are, so I'll make notes, but one of the things I normally tend to have to do is to bump up the normal map contribution, something like that. I'm not doing this for keeps at the moment. I'm just trying to show you how to get it looking at least a little bit better for the time being. And you'll probably find you have to do this for most of the materials. So just in the materials folder, just click through them all and check that they are all set to opaque. There you go. There's one there called a Yaku Zombie. That needs to be set to opaque as well. And if I go back now to the Mixamo characters folder, and then we select all of our characters, and I'll make the preview window a little bit bigger so we can see what it looks like. Once again, remember, you want to have the model button pressed, not rig or animations, and then we can see what they all look like. Like I say, you can see that that one is looking a little bit undetailed at the moment, needs its normal mapping strengthened. There's the girl that we just created. There's Jill. There's Mortimer. Now you can see, I obviously missed that when I was skipping through it, but you can see from the preview that Mortimer has been given a transparent material as well. So let's go to the materials, and hopefully, there you go, Mortimer Diffuse. That's got to be the one. So now if I put that to opaque instead of transparent, then go and select Mortimer model again, hey, there you go, he's no longer transparent. And like I said, if you just want to tweak with the materials, I will give you exact settings a bit further down the line, maybe in another video. But if I drag Mortimer into the scene now, and then select the Mortimer material from the materials folder, we can do things like, oh wow, there you go. Now here's a problem straight away. Mortimer doesn't have a normal map. No wonder he looks rubbish. I'm pretty sure, there you go, he has got one, but Unity failed when it created its material to assign the normal map. In fact, it's even got a specular map, so let's add the normal map to the normal map slot. And Unity is saying that this texture is not marked as a normal map, so we need to do that. So let's fix that now. There you go, he's already looking a heck of a lot better, isn't he? And there's also a specular map in Mortimer's folder, so we can probably assign that to the metallic slot, like so. And we can also increase the strength of the normal map if we feel we need to. Look at the detail now. I'm going to rotate him around. But I will remove Mortimer from the scene. I just wanted to make sure that he was set up correctly. So if I go back now to the Mixamo characters, you can see that one looks a heck of a lot better in the Dead Earth promo after we've set up its material. Looks rubbish though. I would say that's another case where the normal map hasn't automatically been assigned. But we will do that all in the next lesson. Okay guys, I just wanted to show you how to bring them in and at least preview that they've imported correctly. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in the animations as well. And the reason I'm not showing myself setting them up in this lesson is that in order to really understand how to import models and animations and set them up properly so that we can use Unity's retargeting, we need to understand what retargeting is. We need to understand how bone hierarchies are represented for characters. And we need to understand what Unity's avatars are and how Mechanim works with avatars to allow us to play animations from one model on the hierarchy of another model for which it may not have been originally designed. Now this is a pretty big subject, so I'm not going to start it now, and I will start it at the beginning of the next lesson, and that's when we'll probably configure these characters. So for now I just want to bring them in. So we've got the models in for now, and I'm going to go to the Dead Earth folder again, and I'm going to create another subfolder much like I did with my models called Animations. And inside that, I'm going to create another folder called Mixamo Animations. And the reason I do this is because we're probably going to be bringing in models and animations from lots of different places by the time we finish this project. So I like to know where they're all stored. I don't want them all getting muddled in together in case I want to update them, or just because I tend to get in my head, I remember that most of the main animations I use are from Mixamo. So I know if I'm looking for walking or running animations, this is the folder I should be in. So I'm going to go into my Mixamo Animations folder. I'm going to open up the Mixamo folder on my desktop. I'm going to drill down into the Animations folder. I'm going to select all of those animations and I'm going to drag and drop them into the project view. These will import very, very quickly because they have no model information. The thing that takes all of the space and size is the fact that when you have an FBX file with a model and textures and all that stuff in, keyframe animation data actually fits into a very little amount of memory. So there they all are now. They look very much just like our models, but they don't have any model data in them. So if you want to see what one of these animation plays like at the moment, let's choose something like, I don't know, the punching animation. And once again, I'm going to wait till the next lesson to explain what all of these settings do, all right? Because how meshes and animations sort of work together is an integral part of Mechanim and the features that Mechanim provides us with, and it's a bigger subject. So if you just want to see what these animations look like for now, because they have no model embedded in them, you have to tell the animation preview window what model to use if you want to see it. So let's choose headbutt. No, let's choose crawl. Okay, so I've chosen crawl, and what I'm going to do in the FBX inspector now is, because it has no model, I'm going to choose animations. when you go into the animation window, what you'll probably see here first of all is a warning saying that there's no model in this animation. Please assign a model to the preview window so it knows what model you wish to use to preview the animation. So with the animation tab selected in the inspector of the animation file, now we can go down to our models folder, into our Mixamo characters folder, and we can say, hey, let's preview this animation using Jill. And we just drag and drop Jill into the window, and then when we press play, we can see that our animation is working. And we could choose White Clown. There you go, now White Clown is crawling along the ground. Actually, he looks like another one that might be using a transparent material. We'll have to fix that up later. So that's all I'm going to do for now. Alright guys, it gives you a chance to preview the animations. And I'm going to warn you, some of the animations will not play on some of the models. And that's because some of these models will have been generated by different artists and will have different bone hierarchies. Now, if all of this sounds like double Dutch to you, don't worry about it. We're going to talk about this in the next lesson. But suffice to say that animations made for a model that expects one bone layout won't play on a model that has a completely different bone layout. Now, one of the things that Unity provides us with since Unity 4 is the ability to retarget animations, and that is going to be our absolute savior in the creation of Dead Earth, because it allows us to take animations made for one model and retarget them so that they will play on another model. Without this, we would be very limited. If we bought a model of, let's say, a female zombie, and that zombie came with 6 animations, any animations we bought off Mixamo, for example, wouldn't work with that model. So we're limited then to just having several models with only a few animations that work with each one. That's horrible, right? If we have, for example, a dancing animation, we want all of our humanoid characters to be able to use that dancing animation if we want. Now, we can do that with Unity's Mechanim animation system, and for those of you that are just getting started in game development, you are already extremely spoiled and have no idea how spoiled you are, because this is a pretty recent thing that Unity has allowed us to do, and in the days of old, unless you could find animations that were made by the same person that made the model, chances are the animations weren't actually going to work on that model, because they would be expecting all different names for all the different bones. So that's what we're going to talk about in the next lesson, as well as a load of other things. I'm also going to show you some more assets from the asset store that are either free or very cheap to buy, and show you some of the ones that we used in Dead Earth. But even more exciting, I'm going to show you this free mocap library. This is a free resource for Unity that contains thousands and thousands of motion captured animations. Now, they're in a raw format, which basically means if you try to use them as they are, they're going to be really shoddy. The root motion might not look correct. You may have to trim the beginning and the end off of them, and that's what we're going to see how to do using Unity's animation importer. So all of these things we're going to be discussing either next lesson or the lesson after, or a combination of the two. So thanks very much guys for lending us your ears, and I will see you in the very next video. Bye bye for now.